I promise 2025, if you don't get on this wave in 2025, you're going to be finished.
Has negatively impacted our business beyond what we can sustain. And it's forced us to make what are very difficult decisions to eliminate roles within the agency. And this includes
your role is being eliminated and that employment ends on October 18th, and we'll obviously handle notifying all the relevant team members and other stakeholders as we need to.
I got laid off last week for the second time in 2 years. The second I saw it, I knew it. And in 5 minutes, my entire life was right back to what it was last year. I got laid off for the second time in 2 years. And the worst part is, it wasn't even because I was bad at my job. It wasn't because of anything I did or didn't do. It just reminded me once again that we're all disposable. And here's what no one's telling you. This isn't just happening to me. This is happening to this entire generation. The entirety of Gen Z is getting laid off a day after they start working, a month after they start working, 3 months, even before they even start on the actual job. Gen Z is getting laid off these days. It's happening in the thousands, and I can tell you exactly why. So my name's Drew. I have a degree in industrial organizational psychology. Think of it as studying the game of work, like how companies hire people, how they fire, how they manage, what their goals are organizationally and culturally. And what I've taken from that is we're all pretty much like chess pieces. And once you start to see how the game works, how the chess pieces are moving around the board, you start to realize the same pattern. Most of the time, the Gen Z employees are the pawns that are the first to be sacrificed. So I'm not just making this up. Let's take a look at some stats here. 6 out of 10 companies have had to get rid of or have gotten rid of Gen Z employees within months of hiring them. Within 3 months of hiring them, Gen Z employees are already gone. I remember seeing a stat where it was saying 60% of Gen Z employees who got hired, and this was back in like September or October, 60% of the Gen Z employees that got hired in that recruiting cycle of May of 2024 were already out of a job by September or October of 2024. And I know we all hear the things about how Gen Z's lazy, Gen Z doesn't want to work, Gen Z clocks out early, they do just enough and then just clock out. But the entirety of a generation is not so bad that they all got laid off and all got fired within months of starting. And then, of course, just think about it. In 2023, a ton of Gen Zs graduated college. A ton of Gen Zs were still early in their career. 260,000 tech jobs were relinquished. 260,000 people lost their jobs. They all got laid off. And a bulk of those were Gen Zs who were at their first or second job. So there's not much for us to go off of as far as job security and staying loyal to a company. Going back to last year when I was first laid off, the first time I lost any job that I didn't leave by myself. 2024, the company I'm working for is basically going out of business, and everybody, the senior people at my company are telling me, listen, you're a great consultant. These big, huge firms are going to be tripping over themselves to hire you. You're a great candidate. You have a great background, all that stuff, right? So of course I left out of there thinking like I got a severance. This is going to be sweet. I'm just going to stumble into my next job and just easily pick up a job paying me 30, 40,000 more than I was already making, relax, take my severance, put it wherever I want to, and just move on. Now, I actually was using strategies. I actually ended up getting hired in 3 months, which is pretty good for this job market. A ton of people I know, though, were just applying to job after job after job, like hundreds of jobs every single day, and didn't get any callbacks. Let me know if you want to see a video about how to get a job after getting laid off. But yeah, I faced a ton of rejections, which is cool, but I also got a ton of interviews. And as I was getting these interviews, I was taking 4, 5, 6 interviews sometimes with these companies, only for them to just decide not to hire me and have no feedback and just say like, oh, you were perfect, you were great, we just decided to go with someone else. That is like the worst feedback that you can get, because there's nothing that you could have changed besides maybe waking up and being a different person. But basically your entire life can change based on what a hiring manager feels like when they wake up that particular day. It's just like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I chose this candidate. And that's your life. Either you got the job or you didn't. So why is this happening? I think it's pretty obvious why it's happening. It's not bad luck. It's not a coincidence. It's very intentional. Now, the first thing that we all think of is something that's great: the last in, first out rule. Now, I completely agree with this rule. It should be in practice. It should be something that companies follow. If you've been there for 20 years, you've given this company 20 years of back-breaking labor, whether it's sitting in a chair for 20 years or, being out in the field, either way, your back is hurting for that company. So that's fine. But why are you firing boomers? Why are you firing senior employees? The biggest reason they're getting rid of people is money. So when a Gen Z worker comes in, and Gen Z loves to negotiate, we love to negotiate and job hop and find the best opportunities for us and our family. When we come in and we're getting paid fair market rate, and we're the closest ones, we just started, 6, 7, 8, 10 months ago, it's very easy for us who are just starting off at the company to be laid off because we have less relationships, we have less clout in the company, and it doesn't really affect company morale as much as if you just fired the most senior person there. But don't get it twisted, they're coming for the senior people's jobs too. They're coming for those senior people's jobs too because, again, they have the highest salaries. They just have to get rid of Gen Z first to disguise it and say, you are our last resort. But in reality, they're looking at the sheet. The boomers making $300,000 and the Gen Z's making 70. They're going to get rid of the other Gen Z, and then get rid of the boomer to say, we only did this because we were forced to do it. And then another thing about the last in, first out rule that I kind of don't like, and I don't think makes sense from somebody who's delivered and helped companies form cultures. When you're forming a culture, you integrate it into your hiring process. So since that's in your hiring process, and since that's the direction you're moving into, the newest hires are going to be the people that reflect your desired culture the most. So to get rid of those people means that you're not progressing, you're not being as innovative as you want to be, and you're not staying true to your company culture. That's just another reason to say that I wouldn't say that it's really about the last in, first out rule. It's mostly, again, about the almighty dollar, which is fine. Companies got to make money. And then you got the whole experience thing. For some of my younger Gen Zs who are getting into the workforce right now, you're going into a workforce that says you need 1 to 3 years, or even 2 to 3 years of experience in a certain field. And if you didn't do internships, and some internships are saying you need 1 to 3 years of experience, but if you didn't have that experience, a ton of folks don't even apply, even though sometimes they'll hire you still in that situation, but they'll ask for that experience that no one has as a beginning, as an entry-level employee. As a mid-level employee, they'll go from 1 to 2 years, or 2 to 3 years, to 5 to 7 years, or to 7 to 10 years. So I really think there's a really huge gap in the market of there used to be a ton of work in between entry level and manager level. And now I see a ton of manager level positions that are available, and less entry level, and very scarce as far as the specialist and everything like that. Is really kind of difficult to find that as easy as it used to be back in the day, because you got a generation of folks that graduated with a degree, did everything. They have their loans, graduated with a degree, did everything they were supposed to do, and they couldn't find a job out of college. Then they finally found a job after a year and a half, 2 years of looking, and then they got laid off after a couple of weeks. So the future of corporate is very much in danger, because the younger generation is more and more drifting away from getting a 9 to 5 and a corporate environment and working that 9 to 5 and being loyal to that company, because the loyalty just simply isn't there on either side right now. And then I'll tell you, the biggest issue for me when I was looking for a job last year, and even now, is the fake job postings. Can we stop with the fake job posting?
Many companies keep jobs open even if they don't have a current opening, and that's so that they always have candidate flow in the event that they have an expected turnover. Having run HR, I could tell you that sometimes we repost jobs so they look fresh, even though the job isn't technically open. What do? You don't know if it's a fake job or a real job, or if they're hiring now or later. As a backup plan, go on LinkedIn, see if you can find out who the managers are, and find a connection point so you can find out and get directly to the hiring manager.
Like, legitimately, a ton of job postings you see are reposts of jobs that they've been reposting for years. Again, when I lost my job last year and I was looking for jobs, I see the exact same job description, the exact same job. Literally, it says reposted today. A full calendar year later, the same jobs are still up. They have not made a hire. A couple of times I've made it through 4 or 5 interviews, only to be told by people that work in those companies that the job wasn't real, or that there was already an internal hire and they're just collecting resumes. So there's a ton of fake jobs there to just be even more demoralizing. Companies are legitimately just stringing people along. And think about if it got leaked that an employee was going out as a serial interviewer, and there are employees like that. They don't have good reputations, that they're going out and interviewing with this place, interviewing with that place, all not even planning to leave their job. So what does that mean? The days of being a data entry person or an intern or someone new that is basically learning things and isn't really contributing the most to the workplace, but is just there to learn. So later on, they can, give everything to the workplace. So they can later on, help the company a lot because they learn so much. Well, the learning is out the window. There's no more learning. There's what are you doing right now? And if not, you got to go. So it's not just replacing jobs. It's replacing an entire essential rung of the career ladder. You have to, they call it the corporate ladder for a reason, because if you put someone on a part of the ladder that they did not crawl up to themselves, sometimes you have brilliant people that just figure it out, but a ton of times you have incompetent people. And that's why we have such an issue in this country with middle management. That's why everybody hates their manager, because a ton of times they didn't get the right training to even be a manager. So AI is stepping in, handling all these little busy tasks, handling all this work. And I'm a big proponent of getting behind AI and learning AI and partnering with AI. But at the same time, you can't let it replace people. And a little bit of that is going on right now with Gen Z. So the sky is falling. Everything sucks. What do we do? Well, the first thing is figuring out a career, figuring out something that you can do no matter if you get laid off or if you don't get laid off, or if you get fired or whatever happens, you always can do that thing. So that could be being an entrepreneur. That could be finding a career in plumbing, an electrician. That could be, being a barber. That could be even, doing something in corporate or doing something, working for someone that if you get fired, you literally can get a new job within a couple of days because it's so in demand. So take from that what you will, but you gotta find a way to where you're making money no matter what. Back to AI, 95% of managers say that they want an employee that knows something about AI, that's familiar with AI. That's just proof that you have to stay up with the times. You cannot let AI leave you behind, because it will. I promise 2025, if you don't get on this wave in 2025, you're going to be finished. The job search might go from 1 to 2 years to 3 to 5 years. I've seen people that were looking for a job for a decade, and AI isn't going to help that for us. So don't be someone that can be replaced by AI. Be someone that is irreplaceable with AI. And then if you don't want to stay up with the times, you don't want to get another trade, you don't want to do any of that, you better have a strong network. I mean, you better be in every club, every young person club, every old person club. Go to the country club. If it has club in it, jump in there, because you have to have a network of all networks. Because 80% of jobs that people are getting hired for are never publicly posted. So that means that the job Illuminati is doing all this work while you're sitting up typing on the application. I'm sitting here typing on the application too. While all of that's going on, some people are getting hired just because they knew somebody and they say, oh, come in and start working and we'll figure out the paperwork later. The last couple of jobs that I've gotten have been because a recruiter reached out to me or because of a referral. It is incredibly difficult to get a job just applying for it, go through the interview process, and just get hired on. So I got laid off last week, and wasn't a good thing, but it did remind me that we are really in a situation in time right now where we're very replaceable, we're very dispensable, and we have to figure out an alternative. The world that our parents grew up, the world that we grew up in as kids, is no longer. You cannot work for a job and even stay there for 10 years and expect not to be laid off. So you have to adapt. You have to adapt. You have to adapt to technology. You have to adapt to the new world. You have to adapt to how companies are going to treat you, or how to treat companies, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. And I don't want that for any of you. And if you want to see how a bunch of sci-fi writers predicted the crazy world that we live in right now, check this video out right here.